Thanks for having me here. My name's Collin Culdice. For those of you who do not know, I did quite a few pieces for the university, working with some of the greatest folks in design and building what you see in the TPS building, and then the art on the wall, the hanging live donor wall as well. That was a great opportunity. But biggest thing is, like I said, thanks for having me here and speaking with you guys. If anybody else walks in, you know, thanks for them being here as well. But most of all, the biggest thing I wanted to go over is the reality of business. In me going to school, I had great professors that talked about, you know, assets and liabilities, how to financially project a business, how to not get too scope locked, but also not too broad and things of that nature. But there are some realities of business that I believe should be brought to light that sometimes are not in the institutional environment. But before I get into all of that, you guys are all vets, is that right? You're not? You are? You're not? Okay, so just yourself and myself. You guys? No? Okay. All right on. Well, thanks for serving, by the way. But yeah. And so you have education that comes from the greatest institutions, right? But you also have education that comes from the military. There were some of the greatest things that I learned outside of my home, outside of school, was in the military. Now each and every individual who goes into the military, comes out, they pick up something. They might not be aware of it, but they pick up something that is very useful in the realm of reality, right? In the real world here. So what is that for that individual, or what is that for myself? So I grew up on a pretty small farm. Went to school, met a very cool girl, and we dated for a while. Met her family and everything. Grew up that way, and then went into college, and then graduated. After graduating college, I went directly into the military. So I went into the United States Navy, one of the finest branches ever. Served for 6 years. We flew on the EP-3. It was an intelligence aircraft, so that platform taught us how to think outside the box, but also think a couple steps ahead of some folks that weren't necessarily friendly to the U.S., right? So when I got out honorable, but under medical conditions. So I always say to those, whoever gets out honorably, you had to learn something. And a lot of it is being able to understand either orders or understand what you've been asked. And a lot of that stems from kind of shutting your mouth and listening to other people. And in business, that can't be more important than anything else. Being able to listen to your clients, being able to listen to your audience, whoever that might be. If you're inventing something, if you're creating a service, if you're, you know, creating apps, the biggest thing is being able to listen to your audience. How am I going to get money from their pocket into mine? And if I'm going to be successful at it, I've got to listen to what their need is. Well, what is their need? I don't know. Do I have an answer for that? Nah, I don't necessarily have an answer for that right now. And I wouldn't expect anybody would at the time of the creation of your business, your entrepreneurship. When you come to a soda machine, you cannot press in 1, 2, 3 and all of a sudden pop out a successful business, right? Or $1 million check and I'm on my way, right? A lot of it is seriously blood, sweat, and tears, and a broken toe from time to time. And I think that's good, actually, to be honest, because what that does is generates genuine creativity either in a service, a product, or I still don't know what exactly to call the internet world, but building apps is also great too, or web development. All that stuff creates a service that is needed. But what stands out, what makes you stand out, or your product or your service stand out more than anything else? These are questions I'm wanting you to think about, because these are things in reality that you're going to have to come to, like whether it's building a service or building something or doing something, right? What is it that is that's different than what other people are doing, but yet still genuine enough to drive people's curiosity to you. So when I got out of the Navy, the thing I learned was CRM, crew resource management, how to be successful with your crew and for the overall mission. Well, I took that. That was the number one thing I learned in the Navy was CRM, how to be successful with your crew and the mission. So I transferred that into what I call BRM, business resource management, being able to drive a successful business under set goals, set ways of keeping you focused. I encourage you to write a business plan, and I want you to visit that business plan every 6 months, because you're going to change it again, and you're going to change it again and again. Even probably by year 10, you're still going to be doing it. Visit it every 6 months. It helps you to be aligned, but it also provides the opportunity to change it again and help you to focus. So I wanted to touch on focusing. So there's two, at least for myself and my experience, is there's two focusing tunnels that you're going to have. At least I have them. One has a light at the end of it. Success, being able to move forward, and focused on that one. The other tunnel is black and dark, and you do not want to go down that one. That tunnel holds fear, the inability to believe in yourself, knowing that whatever it is I'm doing is going to deliver something very great to my buyer, whoever that buyer is. Now, how do you kind of focus on these two, or focus on one tunnel rather than the other? I encourage genuine belief in yourself. Like, whatever it is you're building, believe in it, because no one's going to buy it, no one's going to understand it unless if they don't feel that you believe in it, they're not going to either. So I encourage that as much as possible. Now, out of those two, focusing on the light. Now, the business acronym BRM, so circling back around, I use that acronym to focus on the light. And what that is situational awareness. I break it out into 7 elements. So I remembered it as SAD clam. It's a great way to remember it, I guess, for myself. But so SAD clam, SAD, the S is situational awareness, knowing where I stand in my business. When I first started the business, it started out as an art gallery. I was selling other people's beautiful stuff, and I loved it. I worked on some pretty big manufacturing lines out in Montana. Worked with some of the greatest, older dudes that could work with wood very well, and we'd go out, have coffee, go have some beers, go horse riding, go to church together, what have you, right? And I got to know some of the greatest hands, fastidious hands that I've ever met, and a lot of it was turned into wood, dining tables, like nightstands, artistic elements that people would have in their home, but out of wood. And I brought all this to Seattle, and I started as an art gallery. And the first year, I looked at my books, and I was like, this is not going to work. I gotta revisit this business plan and figure out kind of some new ideas, And I looked deep into myself, and I said, what are some of the things I'm really interested in? What do I like to do? And I like electronics, when you were talking about electronics earlier. And I was like, all right, what can I do? I can put some outlets and tables. That's cool. And I said, well, what can I do even further? And I thought about this for about a week. It takes a little while once you get an idea. Get some sleep under your eyes. Think about this, right? So once I did that, did the situational awareness, I came up with an idea, and I surrounded myself with some great men and women. And I said, hey, I want to be able to wirelessly charge laptops, is how it started out, not cell phones. And I thought I literally had invented it. And I went online and looked around. I was like, oh, okay, well, I didn't invent it, but that's okay. But I found a way to do like cell phones and iPads, and laptops are coming. They're not out yet, because the companies, what they're doing is trying to find out how to minimize the wattage intake that their device takes. And if they can minimize it, then it works on this, because this only puts out so much. But anyway, I said, okay, that's what we need to do. We need to build a prototype. We need to test it, give it about a year, and that's exactly what we did. We focused very hard on that element. And what that was me stepping back, looking at the scope of the business and saying, I'm I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. We're in business to make money. If this was a nonprofit, it would be a nonprofit. But this is a business that needs to be able to move forward and develop and hire people and build a great business with a vision. So out of the situational awareness came adaptability. I had to adapt to what was going on over here in Seattle versus what I'm used to over in Montana. Montana is very rustic, log furniture, nothing wrong with that, but that's a different style for a different environment. So I adapted over here with a new line of furniture with a modern aspect. But what came with that was listening to people. I went to so many meetings in my first year. NWSID is Northwest Society of Interior Designers. ASID is another design. It's a association for designers to go to and talk, right? And see what's hot and new in the design world. I swear I was the only male in there, but that's all right. I went in there and just listened to everybody talk about. Well, you know, so speaking of which, I came to Seattle. When I came here, I didn't want friends. I didn't want anybody. I was focused on my business, right? And so all I did was just keep my mouth shut and keep moving forward. And so I listened to them, and I got another adapted perspective of other folks. And I surrounded myself with these folks because I didn't know, and I was learning along the way. I learned pretty quickly because it was something I enjoyed. I encourage whatever it is you're going to do something you enjoy and you love, because if you don't do it, the genuine aspect that other people feed off of will not come from it, and you've got to have that. So I adapted. I got into this live edge hardwoods, standard traditional hardwood tables, dimensional hardwoods, and I said, well, out of the finances that I have saved and built up, I want to invest now into what Blue Snow does, our footprint, not a whole bunch of artists, though I still have some aspect of that, but I want that to be more understood and recognized. So I used that and dumped it into a manufacturing facility. We have about $500,000 now of tools, manufacturing capabilities, and about $300,000 worth of supplies, meaning hardwoods, exotic woods, and things of that nature. And the other avenue that I realized that I could bring some of this material in was through areas that had gone through devastations. By spending the money in those areas, it helps the local infrastructures, but it also helped us to get the supply that we needed for particular woods that we build for clients. But we also invested in machines to be able to take, like the TPS building had these gorgeous beams, just massive beams, 20 feet long, 24 by 24s. And we were able to take those, set them on our own mill, and then find the areas in the beam to mill them and turn them into the furniture that you see over there today. So by adapting, I had changed my business from an art gallery to a self-sustaining manufacturing facility. And that is hard to do, but it's reality. You got to be able to look at the books and say, am I making money? Will I be able to sustain? And if I am, can I adjust to my clients? And if I do, how is that going to look? Please look at the business plan every 6 months if you can. I encourage that more than anything. The next one was decision making. Being able to sit back and say, I'm going to change this. This is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. Being able to make that decision is not easy, but it's something that needs to be done. Now, how is that done? Some people, they can do it all on their own. Me, myself, I can't. I've got to be able to surround myself with people that like, people with a vision for the future. I have a select 3 that stand very close to me, and I also have their back. And so I sat down at a round table and we discussed the new vision of the business and what they thought and what we could do to better bring this together and also help to deliver our vision to our clients. And so that's how we developed into a manufacturing that manufactures technology in with beautiful pieces that are built for residential and also commercial. It's not easy to do those decisions when you're talking a full change, but if they're going to better prosper the business, then that's what has to be done, with morals, that is. Then the next one is CLAM, C, communication. I believe communication is the strongest element in any business, from your men and women that work with you to your clients. If you can't communicate accordingly, I would suggest highly taking a political bath. What that is like, I do this every 6 months with my guys, is I stop and I take a day and I say, hey, I want you to sit back and talk to me about what's the direction of the business, how I've treated you, what you feel like some of your concerns are in the business. Just pour it out on me, and you better do it, don't hold back, kind of thing, because nobody wants that. So I do that every once in a while, and that helps me to be a better communicator to the ones that work for me, to the ones that I work with and my clients. It is very important to have a line of communication. Deadlines are going to be on this time. Well, if they're not going to be on this time, the reason why is because of this, but when that's done, the deadline is going to be here. Clients love to know that. They don't like to be beaten around the bush. So I believe a lot of this comes from my military background. When I grew up, like I said, I grew up on a farm. It was pretty quiet. I could run free and do what I want, out in the hills and whatnot. But having that as a background and where I'm at now, I couldn't be where I'm at here without the structure of our military. There's certain things that I learned in there that were required of me, and it's kind of a sink or swim. The line of work I was in for the Navy was sink or swim. You can't fly and be on the cuff of whether you're going to maybe make a decision or maybe going to fly today. No, you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to do it like this, and if you do it like this, then it's going to create, a particular outcome down the line, right? So with that education, that life experience, education from the military was great, and that formed the next part of my acronym L, leadership, being able to lead. I could not lead before the military. I had started, when I was 14, I started my first company, and that was landscaping, and I had a hard time telling folks that worked for me, you kind of did not do this right, you got to redo it. I would cherry it out and be like, all right, you go home for the day, and then I'd stay late fixing it, and that's not a way of business. So military gave me that leadership, and that's very, very important in anybody when you're building any sort of entity. Leadership. You might be by yourself, but you're still going to have clients, and the clients want to know that they're doing business with a leader. And leader can be a variety of aspects, but primarily somebody that they can rely on, that communicates very well, and that can analyze the situation and give them a report back. So that leads me into the next A in SAD CLAM. Being able to, adaptability and flexibility. Assertiveness, being able to assert the decisions, the communication, coming up to you. How are you doing, ma'am? My name is so-and-so. We have the opportunity to do business with you. If you'd like to move forward with us, this is what we can provide for you. That assertiveness is very important as well. Now, people can be assertive over emails, they can be assertive over phone calls, or they can be assertive in other ways, but that is something that's kind of hard to acquire, especially for timid folks. I was very timid when I was growing up. I don't know if I could be assertive, 10, 15 years ago, but now I feel very comfortable and very proud to be meeting people from all walks of life that walk into the store in Seattle or walk into my warehouse in Montana, or people I just do business with from all walks of life. I enjoy that. And again, that comes with the genuine belief in your product. Believe in my product, and I'd like you to hear about it, kind of thing, It's good detail. The last one was M. Mission analysis is what you collected out of the military, but for me, it was the business mission analysis. Where am I moving at now? I just revisited my business plan after 6 months. I said, where is the new vision of this business? Literally, less than a month ago, I just changed the business name and the business emblem and the focus of the business. Why? If you're asking why, it's because I realized that it is going to be easier for me to build 100 items for one person or one company entity than it would be for me to build 100 items for 100 clients. It's very difficult to keep track of that many clients and their needs and stuff like that versus building all these elements for one client. And so I decided that if I'm going to make this change, I'm going to have to change some of the things in the manufacturing ability as well. Streamlining things, making things more cost effective, but not going overseas. I don't need to go overseas because I believe that our product is unique enough that it delivers people coming and buying and purchasing. Now, by manufacturing in areas like Montana and some places in Washington, it does create a competitive advantage financially as well, which is something that must be kept in mind, but I refuse to take products overseas because I believe there's some elements that are lost when that happens. Not saying it's a bad thing, just for myself. But with that mission analysis, I was able to sit back and say, well, if we're going to do this, I'd like to make a new start. Now, who else in the world had done this? And I looked to some other corporations and companies in the world that had changed. I mean, Starbucks is one of the other, another great Seattle company that I believe they changed their emblem over 3 times and it changed the focus of the business multiple times. And so it helped me by taking these other elements of other companies out there to say, this is probably a really good thing to do, real good time to do it. So that, I believe, is very important. Please do remember that. Business resource management is consumed by SAD CLAM, and it's very helpful to run people, run a business by that acronym. It helps me. It may very well help you. But like I said before, military taught me great elements of success, and there is no 1, 2, 3 to success. You will not be able to go and type in a standard code and all of a sudden you got a successful business. You got to adapt. And that's why I say every 6 months, please do visit a business plan or some sort of a structure of your future. Heck, that can be any relationship or business. You have it. I'm going to go into a couple more things, but do you guys have any questions so far? Any thoughts? Yep.
I get a lot of times from your talk, I got that I imagine that you probably have an ethos or a mission statement or something, or maybe you don't. I don't know. But that would surprise me if you didn't. I feel like you are guided, and when you talk about focusing, you're not just like, well, we're here to focus for money, but you're like, let's keep it local. Let's help our local economy. So do you have one, and what is it?
I do, actually. I am in the middle of restructuring that as well, but it's modern meets us, like it meets us. So bringing the modern aspect into what we're doing is what I'm delivering, right? But I'm still working on it. One of the biggest things I'm trying to build into it actually right now is the fact that any of our woods, we're not going out and logging any of this. Matter of fact, a lot of it is helping local infrastructures financially build up. So I'm trying to figure out in our mission statement, I really only want it like 6 words, pretty simple, no more than 6 words. But I want that delivered too, because I think it gets lost in a lot of folks who come into our shop and they're like, oh, this is beautiful, but they don't quite understand where it came from. And I believe that's really important. But I have a couple days right now because the website is being redone and the mission statement is going to be on the website. But I'm working on that. But before that, it was, modern meets us kind of thing.
I have a couple questions. One, do you have
Absolutely.
patents and stuff on this?
I do. I have one on this. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
cool. So that means that there's really no competitors?
There are, but I would encourage them. I want them to do this. There's a reason for that. Because I believe in business and going and shaking the hands of Ethan Allen or Meyer Wells or whoever that are doing it, and then asking for a commission from it. Go ahead and do it with your supply, your build outs. But I would ask, with some paperwork here, that we would sit down and talk about a business relation we could come to, and then my business would get a dividend from that.
Okay.
There are a couple that are doing it right now, actually. And I wanted to wait until 2018 to go and visit them and talk to them. But
Cool.
I would encourage it. I would never, cease and desist. No.
And
No,
with, with the restructuring of your mission statement and kind of your whole brand, how are you, I guess, communicating that with your clients right now, and how are you, showing them that we're still, providing this product and having the same, our values still align.
Sure.
While you go through this change.
Yeah. So there is a couple avenues on this that one must keep in mind. The social aspect. You have Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, right? You have your existing clients that find you on that and look what you're doing and updating. Thank you that you can go on there and change the name like right now and then update pictures. But the key is you still have to keep your old name, and you still have to do all that for up to about 1 year, about 1 year, be safe because people who are going to search the name now, it needs to be linked to the new name so it can automatically direct them. I'm talking about all on the web kind of stuff, right? Okay, then you have the folks that live like just in the immediate area of our showroom, and that's why I wanted the logo and the windows, everything to be changed like one day kind of thing. Then once that's done, it has been very important for me to collect all of my clients' emails, but never to harass them on it like, oh, we're doing sales, that's just always been my thing. Other companies can do that, nothing wrong with that. But once it's done, broadcast that out, let them know, hey, this is what we're doing. And I've always believed on putting the ball into somebody else's court. So once we've done it, ask for a little bit of feedback from them. Hey, this is what we're doing. This is our change. What do you guys think? We would love to have some feedback. What that does is makes them more interactive. It creates a desirability for them to be more interactive with the place they've done business with, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, and the biggest thing is asking our clients from here on out to do reviews about us. But it's a challenge. It is a challenge. This is a great question.
Can you talk about your wow factor? I mean, for the most mainstream furniture buyers, it's a chair, but what's the wow factor of your product versus IKEA? Don't even go IKEA, but others.
Another competitor, yeah.
Yeah, competitors.
One of the biggest things that our wow factor is the element of the material. So we don't get into particle board or press board or standard stuff that's been in the market or was popular in the 80s, right? We deliver what is popular now, colors that are now, and the authenticity of the genuine piece. So what I do is I search out particular woods of figure. So I don't know if you ever noticed, but back when people had like real wood guitars, or even the ones that are electrical guitars now, they're veneered with a beautiful figured quilt or figure fiddleback on the wood. It's called fiddleback actually because the fiddlers back in the day, it was in the cross grains, the 3D effect in the wood. So anyway, that's what we look for, and then that's what we deliver for the residential side of our furniture. Just gorgeous figured wood. But for the wow factor, take for a commercial aspect was, I know for most people, the number one thing they care about is finances. Where are we at with budget for our project? Okay, that matters. So that's a little bit of the wow factors for some folks, but also the quality and the connectivity of the pieces. So when we were doing this, we made sure we were keeping the authenticity of the reclaimed wood and keeping in line with the vision of the university. The university wanted to be LEED, very, very LEED green. It's a way of recycling and keeping everything green from the beginning to the end. So with us, we were able to deliver a lot of that, keeping that communication, showing pictures, updates, and things like that. So that's kind of the wow aspect that we deliver. Communication on a unique level and also the product in itself.
Did you have to innovate anything to create that process?
Do you mean like, did we have to make some changes due to the...
Well, just so I understand it right, you're saying that like from start to finish of developing the whole product,
Mhm.
like not just the materials, but the process itself is also
Yes.
green, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so did you always have that infrastructure in place, or did you have to make some changes?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yes, we had to make some adjustments. Yes, and also we had to. You brought up a point that struck a memory. Is that like a lot of those beams where if you go in there, there's still some left, and they're just so cracked you could put your hand in it, right? So some of them, I looked at those and I said, "There's no way a guy could mill this and use this whole beam for furniture. You'd have cracks in it like this. It's just not going to happen." So what we had to do is, I have a master logger. He lives up in Coram, Montana. He's just a big hoss. He's been logging for about 45 years. And he come down and he's like, "Well, you know what you could do?" And we talked about it. And he says, "Roll that thing at an angle. Get your angle up on the mill. Get that first top off and then start milling down on your angle, and you'll get lumber out of that." Right? It just completely changed our process and our jig that we had to put down the mill. The mill runs about 20 feet. So we put these jigs down, and that could hold it at an angle while your saw is, going through. It's adaptability, being able to adapt, and that was a really fun aspect. But yes, our finishes, all of our finishes that we've ever used, were pretty standard to us. So we had to completely switch gears and switch pumps to a whole nother finish. It's a very, very green finish. It's low VOC, and so that's actually what we're going to. That's what we're doing now. So low VOC, and what it does is when the guys are spraying it, they're not like breathing it in and having cancer at like 50. So we completely changed that. It's a water-based, it's organic, stuff's great. It lasts twice as long. So we had to change that. It was a whole nother avenue we did, and it was great. But yeah, we did have to adapt to new ways. And personally, I like that. I like challenges. I'm not the type of person to do the same thing every day. I would be pretty bored. But yeah, it's a great question. Anybody else?
When you were referring to LEED, are you like the LEED certification thing?
Yes.
Like that process? So
Yep.
are you offering, just because I'm gonna like.
No, it's okay.
So are you offering like UW or T-Mobile or the companies that you're working with? Are you offering them a LEED certification? Like, are you like the things that you do will give you this end result?
So I'm not a LEED certifier. There's a whole organization for.
Like the
Okay.
steps.
Yes. So this is a great question. So what we do is we want to know the vision of the client. What's your vision? And so if they want to have sustainable salvage processes done, we do all that from start to finish. Biggest thing is just knowing what the client wants, and that's really all it boils down to. We have the Pacific's largest inventory of salvaged wood and beams currently, but it was nice when we got our own supply from the university, because then we didn't have to dig into our own. And then we also own the largest supply of actual hardwoods, salvaged, all salvaged, right? So if somebody goes down that road, we provide them with all the services that they would possibly need. Signatures, guarantees, certificates of authenticity from the owner of the business that this is what we do, right? So that way they can take the step to be LEED. But yeah, did you have a question?
I'm kind of curious about your inventory. You mentioned that you have about $300,000 of inventory. And you also talked about reclaimed woods. Can you tell me, you don't buy $300,000 worth of inventory. Do you get wood donated to you, or you see a tree fall in somebody's house? Hey, we'll take that tree from you.
Right. No, these are values on the books of what it's worth if sold to residential, commercial markets, right? Mm-hmm. But how we acquire it is, we'll start with the barnwood. I have made some good friends with some good folks all over the world, but primarily in Montana, Wyoming, Oregon, Idaho, and out in Iowa as well. And they keep coming, and it's great. And I meet them and I meet their families. It's very important that I meet the family, because if I'm going to do business with somebody, I genuinely need to know who I'm doing business with. And so a lot of the barnwood and beams come like $10, for truckload kind of thing. It's very cheap and inexpensive. As long as they're making a little bit and there's a home for it and a use for it rather than just coming down and burning it, then I recognize that and use it. As for the hardwoods and salvage woods, that does come at a cost because you've got to pay to the logistics is really the overhead, shipping it. If I'm going to ship it out of Houston, Texas, where the hurricanes came from, how am I going to get it out of there? I can get it for 10 cents on the board foot, but to get it, I do have to pay for shipping and things like that. But the folks that I get it from is all like, just get it out of here. It came down, and it took this. One guy actually south of Seattle here had two huge madronas, and they came down and smashed his RV, and he couldn't afford somebody to cut it off of the RV. So I said, would you mind if I trade Sundays? I'll trade Sundays for 3 hours every Sunday, and I'll clean all this up for you guys, remove all the debris, if I can have the base of both your trees. And he's like, yes, absolutely, have at it. So I went there and I did that for about 6 months straight, cleaned it all up for him, and then I said, now I got a guy coming in. He's coming with a big truck. It's got a crane on the back. He might make a little bit of mess here in the yard, just with the tires and stuff, but it'll be out of here, and he didn't mind. Come up there, grab him, and that was it. Off to the mill they went. Although Madrona is very difficult to dry. It just wants to, it's one of the hardest woods, but fragile. Cracks really easy, but beautiful. Side note. But yeah, it just depends. And I've been very blessed. They've all come to me. I have not had to seek any of them out. And the showroom, that's where a lot of it comes from. Guys will come in, hey, I got this place up in Arlington or what have you. I got this tree. Would you be interested in it? Sure. Send me some pics. Absolutely.
Would you say that you're kind of like a Renaissance guy now? Because, in a sense that everybody's all in technology, but the pendulum's kind of swung back to old school, working with your hands, being an artisan. And are people more in tune to that now, or are you in the right place at the right time in your business?
Yeah, so when I moved to Seattle, it was 2014, and that was the light at the tunnel for people coming out of like foreclosures and the economy to most people, it still wasn't even there. And I came up here and I didn't even know how hard it was. And I sat in that shop for almost a full year every day. I must have had, out of that whole year, less than 100 people come in, right? It was tough. But something happened between 14 and 15 that people started getting more money in their pocket or something, but that design pendulum started to move from barnwood to something else. I didn't know that something else at the time. But I saw barnwood, and that's all I had, in supply. But I believe, and I don't know if this is true, but it swung from there because barnwood you can pick it up for free. But yet the designers and people were still looking for something unique in their place. So barnwood was a really fun element to the office or interior design. And maybe that's what made it popular, because of the economy was hard. And you couldn't buy material cheap enough, so barnwood, I don't know. But it went from that to where we're at right now, and that's hardwoods. Now, veneers, you can veneer this and I can make 50 of these with this one piece of wood with particle board under it. But for some other odd reason, most of the people who are purchasing very authentic pieces, they can tell if there's particle board. And across the board, everybody I work with has asked me, is this 100% of the wood that I'm buying? Is there particle board? I don't want particle board. I'm ready now for something that I'm going to buy, and I'm going to pass this to my family, and from their family it's going to go down. Just my last client, 2 days ago, I delivered one of the most beautiful tables we had ever done. And she had looked at me and said, Collin, it has been very difficult for me to find someone in the Seattle area that can take care of a client and build something that I'm going to pass to my daughter. And it was a very exotic wood, all salvage and whatnot, but she got that, and I felt very honored when she had said that. It was very important to hear that, that she was looking for hardwood, something more than what IKEA or other outlets would sell. There's nothing wrong with those outlets, but those are great for college students or folks that have a very tight budget. But as the economy grows, our budgets are starting to expand a little bit, especially when it's authentic pieces. Creativity, man. Creativity is everything. You gotta dive into that. What am I going to build next? What's next? What's the next step? If I don't take that next step, I'm going to be stagnant. So the reason why I'm very passionate about this is because I just 2 days ago I created a new line for the business, and I had talked about this idea with some of the guys, and they were like, "That's great. Every family's going to want that in their home," and it's another avenue we're going to move forward on, and always looking at that light. Man, I'm dead serious. There is 2 tunnels in life. One has light and one has darkness that you don't want to travel down. But the light keeps you moving. You get to be able to be encouraged, new ideas, and those ideas deliver growth for a business.
I got lots of questions. As the light going forward, you talk about other being innovative. Is there another vertical that's out of your core competency that you are should be looking at? As an example, maybe a beautiful shotgun stock.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
There's
Goals.
yeah.
Kind of different avenues of goals. Yes. The only reason why I kind of go down and say that is because it's very hard to start a business. I mean, I don't think there's anything else that could, unless you got a kid or a child, that's hard. But if you don't, that's pretty hard. It's not easy to make something and have somebody else spend money on it. That is not easy, and it can be discouraging. And just try your best of anything in the world to believe in yourself, believe in your product, but look down that tube and say, I believe in this, and when I'm there doing this, I will be financially stable, or I will have things that have been tools to help succeed the business that'll come together, right? And always moving forward, always moving forward. You're going to get discouraged. You're going to have people that say, good luck. They might mean genuinely, but to me, that's an awful thing to say to somebody, because I'm not looking for luck. I'm looking for results. So don't be discouraged, ever. And if you do, and when you do, just understand that what you're doing is awesome. What you're amping up for is awesome. So just know that. It just takes some time sometimes. Any other questions?
How do you stay motivated in that dark tunnel? What drives you?
Well, I believe in honest questions come with honest answers. I believe very firmly in God, but outside of that, let's say if one did not, what delivers me out of that is understanding that when I came up with this idea, I was stoked for 6 months. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even care about finances. They're over here right now. Let's test this. Does it work? Oh my gosh, it works. This is awesome. This is great. It looks beautiful. Let's move forward. So that was a great avenue, and that has created the propulsion. So just recently, I stepped back and I did a full analysis of the business again. I said, well, what are we going to do now? And so manufacturing's great. I know I can deliver all this beautiful manufacturing abilities for my clients, but I still want to do something that's going to drive a unique product, something I know no one else is doing, right? And we came up with it literally like 2-3 days ago. And so you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're like, oh my gosh, where's the pen and paper? This is what it needs to look like. And you start thinking about this, and you get just that fire raging inside you, right? And then that goes for a while, and then you create something else, And it goes for whatever. It can be woodworking, it could be metalworking, it could be app building, you name it. It's not one specific thing. I love working with my hands. I absolutely love it. It's a great way to make money. But there are other ways too, Come to find that out with a lot of folks in Seattle, app making, web making, there's an art to that. I built my own website. That is not fun and is not easy. So I give kudos to those who do it. Yeah.
How did you kind of convince yourself? You know, you went from, you know, school to military to being a wood artist or selling wood.
Sure. Yeah.
To then saying, actually, I'm going to create a product that no one's ever seen or heard of or whatever, and I'm going to sell it to people. You know, like how did you build that confidence that, you know, I don't know if you had experience in it, but from what I've heard, that you didn't really have an absorbent amount of experience in, and to just be like, you know, I'm just going to do it and just see what happens kind of thing.
Right.
You know, and then work on it through there.
It's great question. I believed in it because when I started with artists, and I believed what they were doing was awesome and authentic. And I sold everything. I sold my bike. I started another business when I was in Montana for snow plowing, because we get a lot of snow, and you can make a lot of money real quick. But if there's no snow, you can't make money. Anyway, I sold that. I sold my house. The only thing I did not sell was my truck, because I knew I had to have a vehicle to transport heavy stuff. And
So, like, just,
yeah.
I guess what I'm asking is, like, what made you want to, like, out of
nowhere,
just your passion, is that what it was, to sell your house? Like,
yeah.
like, you know, you're saying, like, oh, whatever, I sold my house, I sold all my other stuff, but I mean, that's still a huge thing that a lot of people will never do.
Yes.
You know?
So, I'm going to read something to you. It'll take me a second here. Not the fastest reader, but all right. You ready? Okay. Then I'm going to tell you who wrote this. I did not. It's one of my things that I keep very close to my heart. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better than them. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, and who errs, who comes short again and again and again. Because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls, who neither knew victory or defeat. Now, the reason why I like this is by Theodore Roosevelt. The reason why I like this is because there was no going back. I was going to be homeless, like straight up. Like there was no going back. I had to come to terms with that. But so anyway, back up before that. I graduated college with business management, wildlife biology, and forestry under my belt. Joined the Navy. I ultimately became a spy and ran radars. I engineered where radars would go. I became very passionate about it. Well, when I got out, like I was telling you earlier, I went to Lockheed Martin, L3. I went to Boeing in Washington. I went to Boeing down in Arizona. I looked for jobs everywhere, right? I couldn't find one. It was 2012 when these companies were laying off thousands of people. And I have a son, so I had a son to raise. You know, it was very, very tough. Now, how did I don't know how I necessarily started it, but I saw a vision. When I say I saw a vision, I could see light at this tunnel. I was like, you know what? Somebody could sell this stuff. That could be a great way to form a business. And I believed in what they were doing, and they believed in me. I mean, they gave me stuff that was thousands of dollars, worth a lot to them, and they spent years on building this. Some of these men that I worked with, and women, they had quit their jobs to build this piece that they felt a calling on, right? So I collect all this stuff, handle it with care, and I just believed in it. I don't know, I just felt it on my heart, and so I went with it. Now, out came from that was so much more, and a clarity for business. I encourage the doer of do's, whatever, that don't feel bad for doing business and doing it for yourself or your family so your kids can have, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great American tradition. So when you go into business, yeah, bring some great people. don't hesitate to profit share with those people as well. But remember that you have a business, and no one else has the responsibility like the owner. Nobody does. If one of my artists, beautiful pieces had broken, they wouldn't go to the artist, they'd come to the business, right? So it's very important that you do keep that focus as well, that it is about delivering a future for your business and your vision with great people surrounding you. And if there's great people, profit share with them, there's nothing wrong with that either, But I don't know if that answered it, but it was tough, very tough.
So when you started your business, a lot of, we have a lot of speakers in here. We're getting trained on resiliency training and technical training about how to deliver and pitch and all that. So some presenters will come in and say, "Oh, never give your business away." Have you ever given anything away? So you can get business?
I firmly believe in that.
Okay.
So, so some of my pieces, some of our slabs are absolutely gorgeous. Well, I have an outlet out in Montana that has been supplying nothing but cedar, hemlock, and fir wood, right? And I called the owner. I said, "Hey, I've got some spalted maple that I know there's some DIY guys up in your area, Whitefish, Montana, that it might be behoove you to have some of this." He's like, "No. I said, "I'll tell you what, I'm gonna give you 3 of our finest slabs, display them, sell them, I don't care, and don't even pay me for it, doesn't matter." Anyway, dropped them off to the guy. The guy thought it was beautiful, but he didn't believe they would sell. And I said, "There's too many people up here in Whitefish, Montana that are from California, Washington, Oregon, Texas. The Montanans aren't really even here anymore. So just trust me." And lo and behold, he sold out, and now he's calling me every week wanting walnut, wanting maple, wanting whatever, right? Now, I didn't give him my whole stock, and I didn't sell the farm for it. I just gave him some of the stuff that I believe would have created a good business relationship.
So you knew the market.
Yeah, there's...
Your conditions in the market.
Heck, the CEO of Google, he's got a huge ranch right up in Kalispell, and those guys love to just relax, and if they have a shop, they love woodworking. Woodworking is a huge American tradition. They love that, But yeah, did that, and that's one avenue I believe in, giving some stuff away. Any other questions?
When did you
No.
first find that quote?
Oh, when?
Yeah.
Oh, back in college. So I never had professors I looked up to. I don't really look up to too many folks. There was one fella. He was pretty cool, and he was a straight shooter. And he said, "The real world's tough. You're gonna have a fun time because you're gonna get your backside chewed up a little bit, but keep one thing in mind: innovate, and don't stop innovating." And he defined innovation as somebody who has heart for a particular element. Now, the element can be something virtual, or it can be something with material, something tangible, right? He said, no matter what it is, create something, because that is the very elements that made America great, creating the motor, the industrial age, right? Creating something. So because of him, I always believed in creating something with passion, and this kind of came out from that.
Can you talk a little bit about the lifestyle in Montana versus the lifestyle of doing business in a big city?
Yeah, it's there is a night and day. The pros of it is you don't have to go. It doesn't take so long to do something. You can move a lot quicker to build elements. It's quieter. A lot of our drives to work are through the mountains, so a lot of that is inspiration. Especially right now, we've got the snow caps and how it goes from snow down to the beautiful green base, down to the lakes or the rivers, just depending on which way you're going. And that, as an artisan artist, what have you, that it delivers inspiration as well. A lot of inspiration from just about anybody has always come from most of it's come from nature. But Montana is a very easy way of life. If I could, when I say that, it's because here you got like so many different grocery stores that provide your meats and stuff like that. There, I can walk into Rosar's. Rosar's is my grocery store. I can walk in there and I know the butcher because the butcher's right across the street from where I manufacture, And so everything's local. Everybody knows each other. It's a warm feel. The big city is a little bit faster pace, and you got to keep up with it, and I don't mind that. A lot of folks here. Traffic is not necessarily a fun thing, but you get over it. But I do like it here. The seafood you guys have is wonderful. Oh, man.
You know what the freshest one is?
Hmm.
It's Seattle Aquarium.
Yeah? Yeah.
That is true.
You just go there, grab it out.
Yeah. I still yet to take my son there. I haven't been there yet. Yeah. But yeah, it
So why did you choose Seattle?
that's a great question. I looked at the map and I said, well, where am I going to go to Lewiston, Idaho? You know, where am I going to go? And I know it's got to be where there's a lot of folks. And Seattle's always been so my inspiration was 3 major companies started in Seattle and became world leaders. So you have Boeing, Amazon, and Starbucks were my main, and then the 4th one was going to be Blue Snow, Montana, but now it's just Blue Snow. But anyway, so I really I got inspiration by the folks that had come out of here. I also got some inspiration because I was stationed up in Whidbey Island, Washington, for about 4 years. So I'd come down here and kind of visit Seattle, so I knew it, you know, versus any other city really. So that when I threw the dart at the map, I was leaning more towards Seattle, and it worked out. And the weirdest thing is how I got my place. My place down in my showroom wasn't supposed to work out that way, but it did, and it's actually more perfect than I could ask for. It's a great little location.
Because I just heard you like talk about, you know, how big you want your company to be and all that kind of stuff. So if somebody came and offered you money to buy your company, like at whatever next year, well, you know, would you at any time take that? Or is it more of I love doing this, I'm not really, you know, I guess it's like a hard balance, you know, like obviously you want to make money, you want to live your life how you want to, but is it, I don't know if that question made any sense.
No, I've thought about that. I like having my son watch me when I'm running my mill, right? I've got pictures of him run. I like how he watches me, and he knows half the woods already. Because of that connection, that ability to be that person for him and for others, I'm not in a position yet to sell. If I was to, I would imagine it'd be somewhere in the 40s. I'd be in my 40s or 50s. But right now, I really enjoy it, and I enjoy the relationship, the time I get to spend with my son doing this stuff too. So.
What's the type of education you're talking about that you don't get
Yes.
from the institutions?
Yeah. He just got his first lesson this summer on wood grain, the way trees grow. The grains are always in a circular pattern. So when they're in a circular pattern and you're milling your lumber, you always got to make sure, if you're not quarter sawing it and you're going to slab it, it's smiling, stupid, but the circle. So when you slab it, you've always got a smile on your lumber. And if you dry it or anything, you always got to make sure your smiles are up. And I explained that to him, and he thought that was really cool. And
Yeah, if you look at the tables you did at TPS,
Yeah.
it's just beautiful.
right on. Appreciate it. Yeah.
You know, if I have a meeting there, I'll just sit and I'll look at
Look
the
at that
table.
smile.
Yeah. Well,
So where does Blue Snow? I mean, is it a town in Montana?
No, that's a really good question. That's one of my favorite stories. So we have a fairly big ranch in Montana, and it's all cherry orchards on the lake. Flathead Valley is known for the cherries that grow there. They're world renowned, but they only grow within a certain distance of the lake, around the lake. I think it's because of the moisture that comes up. I'm not sure. But anyway, when I started the business, I couldn't come up with a name for the life of me. And I had locked down that place in Seattle, the showroom renting down there. And she was like, "How can I rent to you if you don't even have a business name in it?" And I'm like, "Well," her name's Connie. And I said, "Well, Connie, I promise I'll have that to you. Just can you give me a couple days?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's not like the place has been vacant for 3 years. So it's not like people were knocking on the door." And I said, "I'll have it as soon as I can." And I was really frustrated and also nervous because time's kind of ticking, and I've sold everything and the finances and stuff, So I had gone out. It was about 1 o'clock at night. I couldn't sleep. And Montana has a very big, beautiful sky. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's just, for some reason, it's just huge. And the moon, when it shines, it shines very full. And that night, we had snow, it was about a foot deep. And the wind had blown up off the lake, and a mound had mounds had built up at the base of some of these cherry trees. The cherry trees are lined as an orchard, you know. And I was walking through the lower portion, and I was talking to God, and I said, I'm so frustrated. I cannot figure this out. You know, I wish I could figure out a name. What am I going to name it, you know? And literally out of frustration, one of the mounds, I just was like, oh, and kicked up a whole bunch of snow. And the way that moon had glown, the light beams or whatever, through the snow, it was a beautiful blue snow. And I said that, I was like, wow, it's beautiful blue snow. And I was like, oh, blue snow, huh? That sounds pretty cool. And so I was like, yeah, that'll be the name. But I looked down, there was a robin feather. I think it was a robin. It was a neon orange at the time, you know. And I was like, oh, it'll be a bee with a feather off the back of the bee, right? It all came to me like right there. And so I spent a couple days drawing it up and everything. And then I decided to put M for Montana in there. And that's how Blue Snow Montana came about. Because I wanted people to know that, you know, this is authentic, all from Montana here in the Pacific Northwest. Believe it or not, Kalispell, Montana is part of the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of cool. Any further than that, it's not. But, but yeah, that's kind of how we came up with it.
Well, thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.